Good evening, everybody. For the Chinese people, 大家好. A bit about myself. My name is Ed Sander. My Chinese name is Aide. And in 2011, I decided to go to China as a volunteer, an international volunteer. And I worked in small NGOs in the city of Xi'an for 2 years. And I was so fascinated by everything I saw there that I started writing about it. Normally, if I get fascinated by something, I start writing about it. So I've done that for various publications, Customer Talk, which is a website specifically about e-commerce and online media here. Chinese radio television is a Dutch media. The China 2025, if you don't know this yet and you can read Dutch, you definitely have to check that out. All kinds of articles, and I write for them every 2 weeks, one article. China Nu, it's a Dutch magazine, and every now and then, because I sort of gather so much information, I write about 3 articles every month. I sort of share this knowledge with people like you. All of the articles I write every year, I gather them together and I publish them in a book. So far I've published 3. You can download them from a website for free. You can download the ebook for free. And what I normally do is I give some of them away to the smart people in the audience. So, if you don't read Dutch, you might be smart, but you're not lucky because I only have them available in Dutch. So, but then maybe you can learn Dutch or give them to a friend. So, I might ask some questions during the presentation, and you can win one of those books. So, like I said, for the smart people. We're going to talk about social media in China. And the first thing you need to know when you talk about social media in China is about the Great Firewall. The Great Firewall is a system of technology that the Chinese government developed to keep information out that they don't want the Chinese people to see. Basically, the idea behind it is that if you post something on Facebook, which the government doesn't like, it's very difficult for the Chinese government to remove it from Facebook. But if you post it on Chinese social media, the government can easily go to the Chinese social media platform and say, if you don't remove that, we're going to revoke your license. So that's basically what they've done. And they've done this whole system which keeps out Facebook, Twitter, all of the YouTube, all of the social media that we are used to working with. Now, that doesn't mean that Chinese people don't have any social media. As a matter of fact, if you look at this chart, this outer edge has all of the platforms that we are used to using. And as you can see, in the middle here are one or more Chinese social media. Why is there more than one? The reason is that when Facebook started, there was only one Facebook. When YouTube started, there was only one YouTube. Well, you have platforms like Google Plus that try to get into the market. Doesn't really work well because you're late to the market. But when the Chinese government decided to block most of the social media, there were immediately a lot of companies that made copies of Facebook, of Twitter, of YouTube. But there was not one company, there were multiple companies. So what you got is you got intense competition among these platforms. And whereas, like I said, basically we only have one Facebook, that also means that Facebook doesn't innovate that quickly as these platforms do in China. And as far as I'm concerned, these platforms are now superior to anything we use in the West. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I'm especially going to talk about WeChat and Weibo to show you what is possible and why, especially if you want to reach the Chinese tourism, the Chinese tourist, why you need to use these platforms. Like I said, this is all of the different platforms we are using, and these are the ones that are available in China. I'm not going to run through them. You can also find them in the ebooks. First of all, microblogs. Microblogs are extremely popular in China. As you can see here, there's almost 90% of the internet users in China have a microblog. So a microblog like we have Twitter. But like I said, there's different microblogs available in China. And the most popular one is Sina Weibo. But the big question is, why are these microblogs so popular in China. So, let's see. Who's got the answer? Why do you think microblogs are so popular in China? And there's multiple answers, but I'm looking for one specific one. So, anybody? Yeah.
Because people are so busy and they don't bother to read long text. And they prefer just short information.
Yeah.
Explain more.
Yeah, that's basically true, but that's also true for people in the West. So, what unique thing makes Chinese social media so popular? Nobody? Oh, that's such a shit. I have to carry all that stuff back home. There's a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that for the first time, Chinese people had the feeling that they could exchange their opinion with other people. So that was an important one. But the most important reason why microblogs work so much better in China than in the West has to do with the language itself. Now, how many people here speak and write Chinese? Yeah. So you will know that a Chinese character is not like we have a letter in the alphabet. It's actually a word. So all of these characters are words. And that means that if you have 140 characters available in a microblog message, you can write a whole story. This translates as this text in English. Now, in this case, you've used 94 characters, so you still have more than 40 characters left, 46 characters left. If you would type this in English, you would have to stop here. So the fact that there's so much more information that you can compress in the Chinese language makes it possible to have much longer stories in a microblog post. So basically, for a Chinese person, a microblog post is what we could do on Facebook, write much more text. And when I send a microblog post, I always have to go like, oh shit, it's 200 characters again. What do I do now? So I always have to compress it, and you don't have that problem in Chinese. So that's the reason why microblogging is so popular in China. This is the development of internet in China, and currently we are at 57% penetration. 57% of the Chinese people have internet. Now, if you compare that with the figures for Sina Weibo, the most popular microblog, we see that 261 million people are monthly active users. So they are using Sina Weibo at least once a month. And what you can also see is that a lot of people are using that on their smartphones, which is also a very important trait for Chinese internet users. Now, Sina Weibo has had a difficult period because there was new legislation in September 2013, which made it illegal to post rumors on Sina Weibo, basically on the internet. And this meant that everybody started self-censoring themselves because you could end up for 3 years in jail if you posted something which was not true. And sort of the content got less juicy, less interesting. So they went through a very difficult period, but the last couple of years they've been growing again, and you see more people starting to use Sina Weibo. A couple of examples. We had Eddie Young here last week, and this is the Weibo page of the NBTC. And when you look at it, it has much more a feel of Facebook, especially if you also look at all of the functionality, than when you look at a Twitter post. What is also an important difference between a different system I'm going to talk about, WeChat, and Weibo, is that Weibo content is searchable. You can, in the top box here, you can type just any search word, and you can search throughout all of the available microblogs for content that you're interested in, as if you were doing like a Google search. That's not possible in WeChat, and therefore this is a much more open platform where people go to find information. Now, there's different Dutch brands and Dutch companies that have started their own Weibo pages. And this is, for instance, the example of the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. Another different, very important trait of Chinese people, there's a question coming up. So, another important one is that they love to write reviews. If you look at all of the reviews written on the internet about traveling, 42% of all reviews are written by Chinese people. This is data, I think, which also came from sites like TripAdvisor. But not 42% of all tourists are Chinese people. So there's an extremely high percentage of people that write reviews. Now, anybody's got any idea why Chinese people like to write reviews and share their opinions about their trip so much? Yes?
I think it gives a strong status, so to let people show that they were at that country.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. There's basically two reasons why people review a lot and post a lot also on social media about their trips. And one has to do with the status that it gives them, the mienze that it gives them, the face and the respect that it gives them towards their friends, their family. So they can show off, look, I'm quite successful, I can travel to all of those different countries. The other reason is that Chinese people don't really trust, and I'm generalizing a bit, but Chinese people don't really trust organizations and brands a lot. There's been so many scandals throughout the year, or throughout history, especially in the last 10, 15 years on the internet, that they don't really trust somebody that's trying to sell you something. So what they do is they trust each other much more. They trust their peers much more than they trust brands. So therefore, they're constantly looking for other people's opinions about places they can go to, about hotels, about countries. But it also means that because they read that information so much, they are also much more have a higher tendency to actually share that information themselves. So it's these two sides that make it very important. And it's also why, if you're in the tourist business, if you're running a hotel or a restaurant, or if you're an organization that's trying to promote a certain destination, that it's very important to use these tools, these social media tools, and enable the Chinese tourists to share information, because other people will read that and they will look for that. This is what I'm going to say so far. I'm going to go back to Sina Weibo later on, but I want to continue with something different. When I came to China in 2011, I was not extremely impressed by all of the social media at that time, because they all looked like Facebook clones, until something strange started happening. People stopped talking into their phones and they started talking to their phones. Strange. But they also stopped listening to like the phone output of their phones, and they were walking down the streets like this. And I asked my Chinese friends, what is this? What is this strange behavior that I see all around me? And it turned out that it was a new product which was launched in the start of 2011 called WeChat. Now, last week you have seen a couple of things about WeChat, but I'm going to run you through the history of WeChat and why it's become such an extremely popular and extremely successful product. I think somebody last week asked the question, is WeChat the same as WhatsApp? And yeah, somebody asked that question. And in the very beginning, in the very, very beginning in 2011, the answer would have been yes. Because WeChat was basically a place where you could gather your contacts and you could have chats with your contacts, and they could include video, they could include text messages, they could include little pictures and emoticons, but they could also include spoken messages, speech messages, voice messages. And that is something that more recently WhatsApp has also introduced in their application, but very few people are using it here in the West. But in China, it's very popular. So this is what your chat might look like. Instead of having a lot of text messages, it's all spoken messages. And if you click on it, it will play through your speaker of your telephone. So that's why everybody's walking around like this, because they're listening to these text messages. So why, compared to the West, do you think spoken messages are so popular in China?
It's quicker.
Yeah. Damn. That's you, yeah? 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 You're amazingly quick. Yeah, it's got something to do with that, because again, it has to do with the Chinese language. And if you use a smartphone, there's basically 3 ways you can enter information into a smartphone. The first thing you can do as a Chinese person, you can draw the character on your telephone. And in that case, you still have to choose the right character that you mean on the right side. So this is like drawing Chinese characters, something that seemingly in a couple of generations nobody can do anymore because a lot of people are using this method. You type in the pinyin, so like the phonetic way of writing Chinese, and again you click the right character on the top. Or you could just do this.
我们到了。
Now, as you can see, this is much quicker. This saves Chinese people so much time. And whereas we feel a bit strange when we send each other text messages because you have to play them and everybody's around and they can hear what people are saying to you, that privacy issue is much less of a burden, much less of a deal in China. So this is what really made WeChat in the beginning a very popular product. But they quickly started building on that. They came with stickers, which are like little animated GIFs, like GIFs, like little cartoons, which you could use instead of an emoticon to sort of spice up your conversation with your friends a bit. The next phase that WeChat went through was it went social. And it's the social aspect was a bit different than what we are used to in the West here. You had a menu, you now have a menu called Discover. And in that menu, the most important place where people go is the Moments timeline, or the Pangyouchuan. Pangyouchuan is where you can see the messages of yourself and your friends. And it can be links, it can be pictures, it can be short videos. So it's almost like a Facebook timeline within WeChat. Then they started adding more functionality. For instance, if you shake your telephone in the shake menu, you get linked up with somebody else that is also shaking their phone somewhere else in the world. So somebody that also wants attention, and then you can start a conversation. But it can another thing what you can do is you can just write a random message or record a random spoken message and throw that into a virtual ocean, like message in a bottle. And other people can pick that up and play your message or read your message, and if they think it's fun, they can send something back. So it's all about getting in contact with new people, with strangers. And it can be even more direct, because you can turn on people nearby, and you get to see all of the people that have also turned on people nearby. And you can see if there's an interesting person in here, and then get into contact. You can even, up here, filter on boys or girls to make it even easier. And once you've made that contact, there's a lot of things that you can do. For instance, like Skype, you have voice and video messaging that you can do, voice over IP. So many different things. This is extremely popular in China. Why? Why is this? Yeah.
Isn't it because the importance of networks?
Yes, but this is normally not something that people would use to build up their Guanxi network. But you're close. You're close. So why do you think this is so popular or important in China?
Dating.
Who said that?
Dating.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it has to do with dating. And if you know a bit more about China, and maybe Ruben can also, or maybe you might talk about that because it was also in your documentary. When Chinese young people are in university and when they graduate, they are really expected within a few years to be married and get kids. So, and there's a lot of pressure from their family, and there's a lot of pressure from the whole society on them to find a partner. So these things enable them, facilitate it for them to get in contact with new people. This happens all the time. When I give this presentation, there's a few people in the audience that just go. Where are they from?
Yes.
Too far away. So, what WeChat is a product by Tencent, and Tencent originally made video games. So what they've also done is they incorporated a lot of video games, a lot of their games in WeChat. You can play them in WeChat. And what you can do is you can see your score and the score of your friends. So you can compare Now, this is a game that was available in the international version. As you can see, I really suck at that game. But Leo, there was one of my friends in Xi'an who is supposed to be studying in Xi'an. Well, I don't know what he's doing, but he's definitely not studying. So this makes gaming also more social. And even if you wear like a Fitband, like one of these, you can compare that in WeChat with your friends and see who had the best performance in jogging and running and walking. Now you might ask yourself, that's all really cool, but are people using that? Yes, they are using that. 92% is using text messaging. About the same number of people that have WeChat is using voice messaging. Moments is used by 3/4 of the people. So these are all things that are really popular in China. They went a step further by making a link to commerce, to m-commerce and e-commerce. One of the first things they did is there's a scanner in WeChat. If you find a product in the store, you can scan the barcode and it will tell you where it's cheaper online. So if I scan this Lonely Planet, if I'm in a bookstore, I scan this Lonely Planet, it will immediately tell me that, for instance, at Dangdang, it's 139 RMB instead of the 200 I pay in the bookstore. So this is used a lot for what we call showrooming. People just go in stores and see if they can buy it cheaper online. Then Tencent enabled brands and organizations and companies to communicate with their different their followers. Basically, like we have Facebook pages or email marketing list. So they first created the subscription account, and a subscription account, if you sign up for that, it's like following or receiving somebody's newsletter, a brand's newsletter. If you sign up, this is our own account, you get a welcome message, and then frequently, maximum 1 time a day with a subscription account, you get content, articles, interesting stuff that you can send to your followers. So it's a possibility for brands to interact with their fans, with their followers.
Every day.
Maximum 1 time a day. So you don't have to do that. There are certain accounts, for instance, news accounts, have several messages, but they can send them as a package every day. But you cannot send 1 package of information, more than 1 per day. It doesn't mean that you always have to send 1 per day. We send maybe 1 per week on average. The next step, what they did is they created service accounts. And service accounts also enabled people or enabled brands to sell stuff through these accounts and have direct contact and do things like loyalty cards inside this account. So this is an example of KLM. And KLM is selling flight tickets in WeChat through their service account because there's a link with WeChat payment, and that's a mobile payment application, which I'm going to show you later on. A big difference, these service accounts are 4 messages per month. And why is it 4 per month? Because they're much more in your face than the subscription messages. Service account is among the chats you have with your friends. So they appear as a chat in your menu. You also get a notification on your phone. Ping! There's a new service account message. Whereas subscription accounts that can send you a message every day, they're in a folder, grouped in a folder. And you basically have to go 1 level lower. So to wrap this up, to compare these, subscription accounts can only be registered by an individual, while a service account can only be registered by a company. This can also be registered by a company, by the way. 1 message per day, 4 messages per month. In the account folder and in a subfolder, no support for payment. And this has support for payment, the service account. And the subscription account is therefore more like a newsletter, where you can send frequent information to your customers and your followers, whereas the service account is more like a CRM tool, customer relationship management tool, and you can also use it for mobile commerce. Now, why is this interesting or important for people in the tourist business? You can probably not read this in the back, so I'll read this for you. But this was a recent research by a company that frequently interviews like the really rich people in China. And they looked at their communication behavior. And these are mostly the people that also travel to far places. But even if you have other users of WeChat, I think the figures would be roughly the same. The question is, where do you get your travel information? And 48% of the people said, I get that from my subscription accounts. So I use these accounts to get information. I get that from my Moments timeline. So the stuff that my friends share. So think again about people sharing information and reviews and pictures of their travels. I get it from websites, from app push messages. WeChat shares by travel advisors. So as you can see, WeChat is a really important communication channel to get in contact with the Chinese tourist. A couple of examples of companies in Holland that are already doing this. This is Hassan Diamonds. They have a really good account where they frequently post high quality content to the people that are following their subscription account, I think it is. Batavia Stad is one of the the outlets. And this has recently started, only a couple of months ago, and they are now building their following. As you know, there's a lot of Chinese people that come to the Netherlands and go to all of these outlet stores to basically buy up the whole store. And I mentioned KLM. And KLM, like I said, they have a service account and they are selling their tickets just like they do on their websites. But what KLM also does very well is they have like the cultural hook that is interesting to Chinese people. Like they have like a blue dragon, so to combine the KLM color with cultural aspects of China. So they do this really, really well. These are a couple of companies that do it well. Now, you've heard a lot about Giethoorn in the last couple of weeks, and they need some improvement. What they have done, this is, the hotel is called Dames van de Jonge? Dames de Jonge, yeah. So what they've done is they've taken the initiative to claim the account for Giethoorn. So if you go to the Giethoorn, so Chu Yang Jiao Tsun, dus ga naar Giethoorn, go to Giethoorn. They claim that account and they have one message in there which gives the history of the hotel. And that's it. Since September last year. 25 people have read that message. How much is that as a percentage of the Chinese population? So it's a good start, but it's really not enough. They really need to do more. And if you do this, you need to have frequent, refreshing content. And most of the time, I recently talked in Brugge to companies in the tourism business, and I've told them, don't you all just start your own WeChat account. Get together. Maybe there's like a tourism agency in Brugge, and see if you can work together, because it's much easier to create frequent new content if you all work together than if you try to do that just for your own company. So, now the bad news is, this is the CMS system, the content management system. It's only in Chinese, but that's not a big deal because you need to write in Chinese anyway if you want to communicate with Chinese people. But it does mean that you do need help from a Chinese person to run your WeChat account. Just getting some translated text back is just not enough because you will not understand how to use this system. That's the second phase, where things went more social and where they enabled companies to communicate with their customers. The third phase is this wallet they introduced. And if you go to this wallet, you have all of these different options available. And what I normally do when I go back to China, I convinced my wife to link our bank account to our Chinese bank account to WeChat, and I've been spending like hell. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that I've been doing last summer. We're in Datong, in a bit of a deserted part of the city, and we cannot find a cab. So I go into the wallet and I click on Order Taxi. This brings me to an app within WeChat called Didi Dacher. And I can enter here where I am and where I want to go. Then I will see a counter on the screen that will tell me how many drivers have responded to my call for help. And if I don't get any responses, I can offer them a tip and see if they respond quicker. I get this screen which tells me who wants to pick me up and how far away they are, as far as distance is concerned and how quick they can get to me. And if I think this is good, it also gives me some information about their license plate and stuff like that. So when they drive up, I know that it's them. And I can accept. And I get this confirmation in my official account, which I immediately automatically follow. So if I, for instance, leave a USB stick or something in the taxi, I can always later get in contact with the taxi driver again. Or if he abuses me, or maybe not me, but I have his contact information. So it also creates a feeling of security. Then at the end of the ride, I get out of the taxi and I can pay the ride in WeChat. I simply go into payment, I pay the 20 kwai that I earn him, I type in the PIN code, and it's processing, and I've booked a taxi and I've paid for a taxi without any cash through my mobile phone, through WeChat. You can follow your favorite brands. I've given you a couple of examples. This is a drink from Xi'an. I'm waiting at a bus stop. This bus pulls up and I see this QR code and I say, okay. I go into WeChat, I go into the QR code scanner and I immediately follow that account and they start sending me interesting information and promotions. I also get a discount if I go to their shop on my first order and I can buy in WeChat their product and it will be delivered by a courier, a kwai later that evening. But I'm thirsty now. So what do? I go looking for a drink and I come across this vending machine in an underpass. I walk up to the machine and I see, oh, I can pick a drink here. And then I can pay by WeChat. Hey, that's interesting. I click on that and I get this QR code and this appears on my telephone screen and I only have to click buy now. I've paid, the drink drops out of the machine. We do some groceries because we're going on a train, so we need some instant noodles. And I see this at the counter, you're welcome to pay with WeChat. So I go to quick payment. If I don't know how to use it, there's instructions on at the cash register how to do this. And this comes up on my telephone and depending on the equipment that the shop has, they can scan the barcode or scan the QR code and I've paid. In this case, it's in a supermarket. They are already scanning with a barcode scanner. So they simply hold my telephone in front of the scanner. I get this notification on my phone. And again, I've paid. Later that day, I do the same thing at Dairy Queen, which sells ice creams, and I pay 24 kwai to buy 2 ice creams. Haven't used any money that day yet. I'm running out of credits on my mobile phone. I go to mobile top up. I choose the right amount that I want to top it up with, and I confirm payment, and I can call an internet again. In Chongqing, I come across this printer, a Lomo printer. And I think, hey, I've seen something about this. I want to try this thing. What you do is you walk in and you scan this QR code. And then you again follow their official account. Then what you do, you pick a picture from your telephone and you send that back in the chat that you have basically with this machine. You can also enter a text that you want to have printed on the polaroid that will be printed for you. You enter the unique number of the printer and you get a preview on your screen and you print this out and this is what you get. So this is a picture of me, my wife and my parents-in-law. And we gave this to them as a souvenir and they're really, really happy with this. So all done through a mobile phone and the connection with the printer. By the end of the day, we've been spending so much that we don't really want to go out and go to a restaurant anymore, so we decide to order dinner. Also through WeChat, we follow the account of Jabango, Overtime Dog, and we get a discount for following their account. We go into I want to order food. All of their food is in the menu in WeChat. We pick a couple of dishes, we add some side dishes, and we confirm our order. We enter our delivery address. We choose the right time, use the coupon, and we pay, order confirmation. And at exactly the right time, there's a knock on the door and this guy turns up and we have this wonderful dinner together. All ordered through a mobile phone without any cash payment. And there's much more that you can do in WeChat. You can send money to your friends. You can store your savings with Tencent and get a higher interest rate than you would get with the normal state banks in China. You can buy movie tickets, train tickets, you can plane tickets, flight tickets. You can donate to charity. You can pay your electricity and your gas and your water, your utilities. You can pay all of that. And as Eddie Young also said last week, we have a bit of a cultural influence in China because you can go Dutch. You can split the bill with your friends. There's more that you can do. Tencent has a couple of partners. Jingdong is after Alibaba, the biggest internet e-commerce company in China. And you can go to specials and then shop on the Jingdong site. And Jianping is like a group buying website, so you can also go from WeChat and get the latest deals, location-based, the ones that are in your area. So to sort of sum this up, if you look at a Western phone, this is what a Western phone looks like. In China, you could just have this. This is all you need to do all of the same things. All of your social media, all of your internet banking, all of your taxi ordering. You don't need any Uber, you don't need any Yelp. And QR code scanner, everything is in this one app. It's all available in this one app. So, as you can imagine, all of this is extremely useful for Chinese people. Extremely handy. And thereby, it's the most popular app in China at the moment. Almost 800 million people are using it. Some of them are outside China, but most of these people are inside China. If you walk up to somebody in China and you ask them, do you have a smartphone? And they say yes. And you ask them, are you using WeChat? Probably 95% of them will say, yes, of course I'm using WeChat. But it's only really one country in the whole world that is using WeChat. Tencent has put a lot of money in the American market to try to get people to use WeChat, and they have not succeeded because it's just so different. And also because all of the things that make it really handy, like the voice messaging, is strange to us. All of the m-commerce is not available in the international version. There is one other country where WeChat is the most used chat app. No. It is in the map. It really is in the map. Which country is it?
Taiwan.
No. No.
India? Singapore?
No. 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 Time's up. Sorry. No. It's Bhutan. So, don't know why. So, why is all of this important for people in the tourism business? We've understood this from the communication point of view. But what we also see is that Chinese people have become so used to buying groceries, paying for utilities, ordering food, ordering plane, train tickets through mobile payments, through apps like WeChat. And there's another one, Alipay. Alipay is even bigger. Alipay has about 70% market share, I think, whereas WeChat payment has about 20%. So Chinese people are leading in mobile payment. So this is what Alipay looks like, for instance. It's quite similar if you look at the functionality. Now, that's all fine. Maybe you think, well, I'm not going to China. I'm not going to pay for my ice creams and for my Polaroid pictures and all of that stuff. So why is this important to me? Well, Alipay will launch in Europe. So they will make it possible for Chinese people to pay with Alipay if we help them do that, if we enable them. And WeChat is going to do the same. So wouldn't it be extremely handy for a Chinese person not to carry around all that cash anymore, all of those euros, and get robbed somewhere, but just be able to go into a restaurant and to go into a hotel and pay just like they're used to at home? If they are your customers, you should facilitate paying in the way that they really like to pay and are used to paying. Now, how do you combine these two things? Sina Weibo is very good to get reach. So you can search through the content, which is very difficult in WeChat. You can build awareness, you can have viral campaigns. It's much easier to spread because it's an open system. And then if you got people, you can convert them to WeChat. And in WeChat, you can use customer relationship management and m-commerce. So you can have official account messages. You can stimulate word of mouth to their friends, help them share the information you send them. Direct communication with your customers and prospects. You can have chats with them, just like you do with your friends. You can run loyalty programs, and you can enable them to do mobile payment. And what is very important is you have to use these babies. This is essential. This is the way that people do everything in China. And for those of you who can read Dutch, next week on China2025.nl, I've got an article about QR codes. And this is what enables people to do all of the stuff that I've basically just shown you. Okay, thank you.